Hi and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, you have a bit of a haul. So, do I have tokens for this? No. Am I going to try to earn tokens for all of this? Again, no. I have made some updates to that, and I'll go over that in my next book buying bingo video. Had to adjust the camera angle. But, so I have some Christmas gifts, and I wouldn't use tokens for those anyway because I didn't purchase those. But then I decided to make these lists, and I also decided that one thing that will help me make sure that I meet these goals is having these books in physical form. You can't see it, but literally you are set up on the only space not occupied by books on my desk over here. And that will become evident when I get into these books. So I'm going to divide these up into a few different sections. I'm going to start with Christmas. Christmas will be actually in two parts, what I got from my dad and what I got from my mom and my sister. So two different times. And then I'm going to talk about the books that I got at the Barnes & Noble book sale, both online and in person. And then I'm going to talk about the list books. So those I bought from a variety of places. Thrift books, book outlet, and I did buy some on bookshop.org, and also I did buy a handful on Amazon. So before I get into those, I have a huge disappointment that happened this afternoon when I got the last of the package. There are also a handful of those books. One is a pre-order of the paperback, which won't come till February, and the others will come in a couple weeks. But I wasn't going to wait on this video for that. I got this order from Thrift Books, and the cover actually of the paperback is a little bit bent. I have never in my life gotten a hardback that came like this. Yeah. It is literally split. Jammed into the package. I know for a fact I did not order a book that would come like this. So that will be going back. This book is one that I'm really excited about. Jackson Land. President Andrew Jackson, Cherokee Chief John Ross, and A Great American Land Grab. I'm super excited about this book, but I am so bummed about the state of it. I'll be sending this back. Now we get to the Christmas book. So I'm going to start with what I got for my dad. And first off, we have Read Famine by Anne Applebaum. I read this earlier in 2022. It was one of the books for Jess Owen's book community read. It is about, again, Stalin's war on Ukraine, which was basically a government imposed famine on Ukraine. It is fascinating, and I really do like the paperback version of it better than the hard copy that I got from the library. Next we have The Gilded Ones by Namina Forna. I forgot the books that I put on the list that I gave him, so all of these were a surprise. I read The Merciless Ones this summer as an arc. I think I will go ahead and get it. I was intrigued by where it went. I didn't expect it to keep the mysteries going, but I really loved how Namina Forna really challenged the main character's thinkings throughout both books. And then we have the box set of the A Curse So Dark and Lonely trilogy. I read this a while ago, but then last year for the Goodreads Tourist Award, A Vow So Bold and Deadly was on the list, so I read A Heart So Fierce and Broken, and then A Vow So Bold and Deadly. Super excited to have these, and I haven't decided whether I'm going to keep them in the case or not, but I really love this trilogy. Lastly, we have a book that I forgot that I put on the list, but I saw it, and I'm so glad that I have it. And that is This Place, 150 Years Retold. I must have put it on the list after someone talked about it. This is a collection of graphic short stories, as in graphic novel short stories, all told from writers. I believe they are all First Nation members. First Nations is what the native tribes of Canada are called, and it is a retelling of the history but with own voices. I'm so excited to read this. Next we have the books I just got. I was gonna film this tomorrow, but I can't wait, so I'm gonna film it now. The books that I just got. So I had given my mom my Waterstones wish list, and I should have looked at it. I have all the books on that list now, and funnily enough, she accidentally bought me the same books that she bought for me for my birthday back in July. And I'm like, that's totally okay. And she ended up giving them to my brother-in-law, which is really awesome. He's the other avid reader of the family. But she asked me for another wish list. And I'm like, no, you don't have to do this. But of course, she's my mom. She's gonna do it anyway. And so I sent her my book outlet wish list. And she got a stack that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 books. She bought 14 books. I'm so excited about all of them. And I was thinking, oh, I've read most of these. No, I haven't. So I'll start off with the ones that I have read. That is 2 of the Keeper of the Lost City series. They're in paperback, which makes them feel less intimidating than the hardback, but this is book 1 and this is book 4. I have a lot more that I need to collect. And then we also have 2 books in another series. These are books that my sister got for me. I believe I've read the 3rd book, but I'm not 100% certain. I probably will read these anyway. They're both by Cornelia Funke, who is the author of the Inkheart series, which I love, and I love her writing. I don't know if she's writing a lot anymore. These were originally written in German and translated, and it is the Reckless series. So we have book 3, The Silver Tracks, and book 4, The Golden Yarn. I may have those switched, but they're books 3 and 4. I did have those switched. It's on the spine. Book 3, The Golden Yarn. Book 4, The Silver Tracks. I know I haven't read this one. Next, we have one that helps me with my series. It's the 3rd and the concluding book to the trilogy of One Crazy Summer by Rita Williams Garcia. I absolutely loved that story and what it set up. It's historical fiction. These 3 sisters are being raised by their grandmother and their father. Their mom took off and now lives in California, is very involved with the Black Panthers, and they go out to visit her. This book takes place when they go home to Mississippi, where their grandmother is from. This is the only one in the trilogy that I haven't read. Next, we have a book that I could say, yes, I've read it, but I read it in Spanish and I really wanted to read it in English, and that is Before We Are Free by Julia Alvarez. And interestingly enough, it is much more tightly bound than the others. But also interestingly, I am taking a course this semester, which is the last course I need for ESOL or TESOL certification, teaching English speakers of other languages. And I just purchased a book for that course, which is written by Julia Alvarez. And I love her writing, and I'm really excited to read this in English. Then we have a book where I need to get book 2 in this series, but it's one of my backlist series that I'm going to be talking about soon. And that is the conclusion to the Project Nemesis Trilogy. I was really intrigued by it once upon a time. It was one that I started because of SESL lists, and now I have the conclusion to the trilogy. Next, we have one that I've heard a lot about, and that is Crown of Feathers by Nikki Palpretto. I do remember that it had something to do with Phoenix Riders. I would go into synopsis, but judging by the number of books that I have sitting here, that would take far too long. Next, we have a book that will help me with my series project, and that is Graceling, the graphic novel. I read Graceling a really long time ago, but I want to continue in the series. Having this as a graphic novel will enable me to reread the story a whole lot quicker. Next, we have 2 books in a very long series. They're not in order. That's totally okay. Those are 2 books in the Wheel of Time. I love this edition of them, and I have book 7, A Crown of Swords, and book 10, Crossroads of Twilight. Next, we have one that I am really excited about, and that is Furia by Yamile Said Mendes. This is a story set in Argentina of a girl who is excellent at soccer, but she has to have her family's permission to continue to play soccer, and in this culture, it's frowned upon. Girls don't do it, which is why when you look at the World Cup, you'll see all of these Latin American men's teams do really well, like Argentina winning. This is set in Argentina, but their women's teams don't perform at that level, even though the culture is so football obsessed. I'm so excited to get to this one. Then we have one where I need to get the first book in the duology, and that is Illusionary by Zoraida Cordova. Again, this is a fantasy duology. And lastly of my Christmas haul, we have Anxious People by Frederick Bachman. This is now my third Bachman book. I'm probably going to read A Man Called Ove first, but I'm really excited to get to this. And I love the colors on this cover and the size of this hardback. So excited that I have it in hardback. Okay, next I'm going to talk about the books that I got for my series project, because there's only 3 of those. First, we have the book that came in that package with the very damaged book, and that is, oh, there was a sticker on here that somebody removed. Anyway, that is The Rune of King by Jen Lyons. I'm so excited to get to this series. Jade from January Reads really loves this, and with fantasy, our tastes are almost identical, so I'm super excited to get to this. Next, we have another one that I am super excited about, Malice by John Gwynne. This is a very involved story, Faithful in the Fallen series. There are prophecies of like the hero, the big hero, and the big bad guy, but nobody knows who is who, and that's the setup for this series. Again, so excited about this. Lastly, we have The Bone Season by Samantha Shannon. I want to give this one a try before putting Priory of the Orange Tree on my read list, because those covers are gorgeous for Priory and for the prequel, which I don't remember the name of. But this is on my series to start in 2023, so here we go. Next, we have books that I got at Barnes & Noble during the 50% off sale. I'm going to start with the ones that I have read and I get to put away on my shelves and do some rearranging. I'm so excited about that. And there is a funny story about one of them, and I'll mention it when I get to it. First off, we have Skander and the Unicorn Thief by A.F. Stedman. I was super surprised to not see this on the middle grade list, because it got, you know, exclusive editions, and it's so good. I really enjoyed this one. I was thinking about waiting for this next one until it came out for paperback, but I needed to have it. Omari and the Great Game, signed edition. I have B.B. Alston's signature right here. I am so excited about this. It might make me want to track down Omari and the Night Brothers in hardcover. Next, we have The Ogress and the Orphans. Funny story about this. When I was purchasing my books, this ended up on the top of the stack, and the girl at the register next to me, she's like, oh, what is that book? It looks so cute. And so I got to hype up this book, and she took a picture of it, and hopefully she'll read it. Next, we have 2 Arusha books. We have book 2, Arusha and the Song of Death, and book 5, Arusha and the Nectar of Immortality. I want to collect this series, and I got the hardbacks, even though the whole series wasn't in hardback, because Barnes & Noble sale was for hardbacks. I went into the store with a list of my 5-star reads for the year, so that's why I got these. Next, we have The Witchlings, or just Witchlings. I'm so excited. Book 2 is coming out next year. Probably gonna pre-order it. Can't remember if I have or not. I loved this book so much. It's adorable. Then we have Zachary Yi and the Dragon Emperor. No word on when book 2 is gonna come out, but I loved what Jiren J. Zhao did with the story in this book. Next, we have a book that I read as an e-arc, and I didn't remember that I had rated it so highly. I'll have to look back to it, but I remember loving another one of Robin Benway's books, so it's not surprising that I loved this one, and that is A Year to the Day, obviously by Robin Benway. Then we have the funny story about this next book. So I bought some of these books online in the morning from what I could find, and then I'm like, you know what? I want to go into the store too. So when I went into the store, I had my list, and I didn't put this particular book on that list because I'd already purchased it. I saw it and I'm like, oh, that's a book I liked that I wanted to have. Literally purchased the same book twice in one day. Thankfully, it was really easy to take back one of the books and exchange it. That book is Foul Lady Fortune by Chloe Gong. I enjoyed this book so much that now I do want to read the These Violent Delights duology, and I'm really excited about it, and it's the exclusive edition with these beautiful sprayed edges. I love the color pattern on here. Unfortunately, because I didn't take the receipt from the store with me, I had to take back the other one which had the sprayed edges and was signed because it matched my receipt. But I love the color pattern and the sprayed edges. Absolutely gorgeous. Next, we come to the books that I bought at the sale that I had not read. Some of them were planned, some of them were not. you know, it is what it is. The first of those is one of my e-arcs that is now published that I need to put on my TBR for this month to try to get down my e-arcs, and that is the inclusion to a book that I read as part of the Goodreads project. We have A Venom, Dark and Sweet by Judy Eileen. Next, we have The Door of No Return by Kwame Alexander. I love Kwame Alexander's writings. Ashley from Bookish Realm talked about this a lot. She talked about how heartbreaking and difficult but impactful of a read it was. So when I saw that this was there, it was hardcover, it was on sale, I'm like, I have to have that. Next, we have Sparrow, which is book 5 and the concluding novel to the Graceling series. I now have all of them, and I have that graphic novel version that I hauled just a moment ago, so I can get on to finishing this series. Speaking of series and conclusions, So Learn by Shannon Messenger. I went ahead, I purchased it. Does it match the other copies of Keeper of the Lost Cities that I have? No. And apparently this is an exclusive Barnes & Noble edition, but I don't know what's exclusive about it, because the cover looks pretty much the same, and maybe there's some stuff at the end, who knows. But I'm really excited to get to this because I really do like the series. And then next we have a book that was not on any of the lists that I read, but it was on the nonfiction list, and that is Unmasked, My Life-Solving America's Cold Cases by Paul Holes. This is one of the ones that was in another category that I was really interested in. I saw it on sale, picked it up. And then last, from the Barnes & Noble haul, we have the Barnes & Noble edition of Lore Olympus Volume 3. I had been holding out for a while because I thought Illumicrate was going to do another special edition. I guess they're not, so I got this exclusive edition, and I was so excited when I saw that it was hardcover, so it was eligible for 50% off. One book that's not part of any of these hauls, but I'm going to talk about here because I'm not going to use a token to redeem it. It was not a book that I paid for. That was an e-arc that I won. That is Quarantine Highway by Millicent Borges Accardi. This is a book of poetry that I won off of Library Thing, and I'm going to hold this in reserve for when I get that prompt about poetry. Next, we have 3 books that I bought on Book Outlet to treat myself that are not part of my series, and now I get to the ones that are part of my projects that I'm working on this year. The first of those is Angel of Greenwood by Randy Pink. I read another Randy Pink book for one of the SEASL lists, enjoyed it. It wasn't super mind-blowing, but this one is centered around the Tulsa Massacre, the Tulsa Race Massacre, and I've heard really good things about it, so that's why I picked this one up. Next, we have another book in a series where I need to get both the first and second book, but I've read the first book and loved it, and that is Hollowpox, The Hunt for Morrigan Crow, part of the Nevermore series. I adored that series. I looked for it at the store, but didn't have it, so I need to get the first 2 in this series. Unfortunately, it is very tightly bound, so it might be a little bit difficult to read. And then lastly, I went ahead and got this book because the second book in this, I've read the first book already. The second book is on my buzzwordathon TBR, so I went ahead and got this so I could finish off the series, and that is The Mark of the Dragonfly, which is part of the, I don't know what the series name is, but I really enjoyed the first one, and I believe it's steampunky. On that note, I'm going to now move to my buzzwordathon TBR books that I have. I do not have 2 of them. They will be coming later because I pre-ordered them. One is going to come in the next few days because it already shipped. It came out last Tuesday, I believe. And the other one comes out at the end of the month. Speaking of that series, we have The Secrets of Solace. Then we have Dreadnation by Justina Ireland. Bravey by Alexi Pappas. This one's interesting. We have Aggie Morton, The Body Under the Piano. I'm really excited about it and I like the thing, but then I looked at it. It's an ARC copy. I paid for this. That someone sold this and got profit off of it. You're not supposed to do that with ARC copies. Then we have Spellsinger by Sebastian de Castell. I did try to get the version, the British version with the playing cards, but it was prohibitively expensive, so I got this one. And lastly, one of the good ones. Even since I put this on my list, I've heard more good things about this, so I'm really excited about it. That brings me to the last project, and that is the 23 and 23. I am still waiting on 3 of those books One is that paperback pre-order that's coming out in February, and 2 of them are the ones that are going to be delivered sometime in the next couple weeks. Schoolhouse Burning, and I forget the others. Obviously, I'm going to have to get another copy of Jacksonland because they screwed up that copy, and I forget what the other ones are. But the ones that I do have are Out of Darkness by Ashley Hope Perez, Running While Black by Allison Mariella Desir, Opposite of Always by Jason Reynolds, A Woman of No Importance by Sonia Purnell. Interestingly enough, my stepdad's already read this. This is a book that he has read before I got to it. Sanctuary by Paula Mendoza and Abby Sher, Shouting at the Rain by Linda Mullally Hunt, All Begun in the Dark by Michelle McNamara, Medical Apartheid by Harriet A. Washington, and I will say I prefer this cover to the other cover. The other cover, I know what they're going for in it. It's really unsettling. And I also love that it's a floppy copy. Did not mean to rhyme there. Then we have The Devil's Highway by Luis Alberto Urrea. Speaking of covers, I prefer the other cover to this one, but I have it. And then lastly, we have A Seat to the Sun by Ada Salazar. Okay, so this is Jen from the future. I knew I should have waited until today to film the book haul, but I was just too eager. And those books that I mentioned before that had not arrived yet and I thought would be coming in a couple weeks, well, they came today. And there was one other book that I forgot to haul. That is Snow Like Ashes by Sarah Rosh. I'm going to be talking about that in my upcoming series video. And then the pre-order, the first of the pre-orders of the January releases has come in. That is Song of Silver, Flame Like Night by Amelie Wen Zhao. This is one of the books for my buzzwordathon TBR. Then we have one book for my 23 and 23, and that is The New Age of Empire by Candy Andrews. Again, this is one of the ones that I prefer the other cover of it, and I'm wondering if this is the British cover because it came through Book Depository, at least in a Book Depository box. And then we have the last 2 books for my series lit. First of those is The Mask of Mirrors by M.A. Carrick, The Shadow of What Was Lost by James Islington. Yes, I bought, it's fairly used, but it just feels so nice in the hand, and I'm really excited about it. So I'm going to throw it back to last night. So there you have it. I'm going to count up how many books I have in this haul because it's quite a few and I want to get more. Thanks so much for watching. I hope to see you in the next one.